All right, we're going to get into a few things too. We'll get to more of your chats, folks. But just as a reminder that today, of course, is a Remember Wednesday presented by Fayetteville Fly Co. And we know that there's a lot of great things that are going on with Fayetteville Fly Co., especially like one of the little Rod Hog shirts. Pretty hot commodities, apparently, because they're having trouble keeping them in stock. How many great people are going out and buying them. But just remember, Fayetteville Fly Co. is a veteran-owned outdoors goods company based right here in Fayetteville. And they've pledged 5% of every purchase in 2025 to support the Mayfly Project in their mission to mentor foster children through fly fishing. So a lot of great causes that a lot of their apparel and every time you buy the apparel goes towards. And so if you want to kick off the new year the right way, be sure to use the code HOGSBY20 for 20% off your purchase at fflyco.com. And you can see all the different apparel that they have to choose from. Again, it's fflyco.com. Use promo code HOGSBY20, all caps and no space. Apparently I needed to say that. All caps, no space, HOGSBY20 for 20% off your purchase. So, guys, we can almost do like, hey, remember when Arkansas atmospheres used to be great? Like, remember when Bud Walton atmosphere used to be great? I did want to bring this up, Curtis, because you were talking about the highlights you were watching. Mm-hmm. What's the greatest atmosphere that all of us have ever been in Bud Walton Arena? Which I know we haven't been to every game, but like just in our own personal mind, what's the greatest atmosphere in Bud Walton Arena history that we were in attendance?
Yeah, I mean, it's hard for me to go past that Auburn game.
Yeah.
I mean, that was crazy, but I will say, and I'm bad at years, but that Arkansas Tennessee game with Barford Macon in there, that the game wound up going overtime. Yeah, Gafford doing his thing.
I think it's 2017. It's 2017.
Yeah, up until that Auburn game, that was the loudest I'd ever heard that building, and I was in there as a fan. That's the most fun I've ever had at a basketball game. That was awesome. So that one is way up there on the list for me.
Yeah, I think I've gone to the least amount of games of this trio in terms of Arkansas basketball, but the Auburn game definitely is just, that was a very special night in just my life. Like that was like is one I think about all the time. And I if I've been in a better one, I don't know what it would have been. And sometimes honestly, like it's tough to gauge because like in the moment it feels like it's the biggest thing ever, but then you go to another game and it feels like the biggest thing ever. But I still feel like that Auburn game, start to finish, there were just times during the game where it was just so loud I couldn't even hear myself thinking. Like I was trying to work, and it was horrible. I don't know what story I wrote that day, but it had to be the worst story of all time.
Yeah, because wasn't that also when Duke Deuce was there and they were like, playing the song on the court?
He wasn't there that night. Okay. He wasn't there, but while they were storming the court, they were jamming to the Duke Deuce song. So then he came to the Kentucky game later that year.
That's right. That's right. Yeah. See, this is where I'm the old head because I've been going to games forever. But the Auburn game was definitely next level just because not only you don't play a number one team in the country in your home court very often just because the timing has to be perfect. So just to have that in the game itself was incredible. Overtime and Auburn, I mean, I know you remember it too, Curtis, but like Arkansas put themselves a good lead hitting free throws, and then was it Parker? What was his name? Shabari Smith would come down, just nail a three. So it's like you couldn't put him away. So yeah, it was a great atmosphere for that one. For me, I think that one's definitely up there. That Tennessee game you talk about, still one of my favorite games that really didn't mean all that much as far as like, Arkansas, Kentucky, or playing a number one, because that went to overtime as well. And Arkansas, when they went on that run in overtime, like when he got Anthlon Beard hitting a three that he should never have taken, I was so mad as soon as he left. I'm like, there's like 40 seconds left. Stop. But he nails it, luckily, and the place is just bedlam. So that was a great atmosphere. I'll always feel like, some games of old, like the Auburn game of 99 was incredible. The Kentucky game of 95 was incredible. And even those random one-off Mike Anderson year games, like, of course, the Qualls putback dunk was great, but here's a fun fact for you guys. Do you know how many fans were at that Kentucky putback dunk game? Like, because that was back before they did tickets sold. You know how many fans were there? There were only 17,000 fans there.
Really?
Wow.
Yeah. The student section, it was the first time they had packed out the student section where they had to turn students away. But the rest of the crowd, it was just, Tuesday night at 8 p.m.
It was like midnight.
Yes.
When that game finally wrapped up. I do remember that.
I was doing morning radio. I was a producer for a morning radio show. It had to be up at like 4 a.m. and I didn't sleep that night because I was, like I said, I was in the front row. But still, like that was a great atmosphere. And even I remember that Kentucky game was great. But all of that, I'm still going to give a shout out to that Michigan game in 2012.
Yeah.
That was about as, because that was the first game, Mike Anderson's first season. And that was the first game that, you went through the Heath and Pelfrey years where not only people were excited about the game and the season and the team because you had Mike Anderson. You were excited because Dorial Green Beckham and Bobby Petrino and all that was recruiting there. It's Michigan. You haven't played them in forever. They were a really good team. It just felt like that was the first in a while. And Arkansas did get the win. Shouldn't have, but they did get the win. But yeah, it was on CBS. You had Kevin Harlan and Bill Rafferty on the call. I mean, come on. How could it be better than that? Hearing Bill Rafferty try to talk about Ulysses Nobles was a hilarious thing because he has not watched Ulysses Nobles one time that year, but he tried. So, but yeah, those are a few great atmospheres I remember.
Yeah, that's crazy, man. I really wish I could have been at that Michigan game, and some of the stories you've told about someone back from your days as a student. Like I don't regret the decision I made to go, try and play NAIA basketball and get college paid for or whatever. But there are times like when you start telling those stories where I'm like, man, if I had to do all over again, I would have just gone to U of A.
Yeah.
Like it would have been awesome. So that's pretty cool. Do you guys remember when Arkansas lost by 26 to Ole Miss in basketball last year? Because I feel like I burned it out of my memory.
We were watching it at the office, right?
Yeah, we were. I just want to throw this out. We don't have to relive that game much, but the starting lineup for Arkansas in that game, Caleb Battle, Keon Minifield. It was Devo's last game before his hiatus. Chandler Lawson and Denaje Harris.
I think I can tell you who led Arkansas in scoring that day.
I bet you can.
Was it Layden Blocker?
It was not Layden Blocker.
Gosh, who was it?
Was it someone random?
I believe it was Battle with 11, but Pinion was the only other double-digit scorer with 10.
Gotcha. I remember Pinion and Blocker having some moments while
That was
it was
Florida.
Like 86 to 58, and they had like a couple decent moments, and fans were like, see?
That was the Florida game, which was like right before that. But yeah,
that's what I'm thinking of. Okay, that's what I'm thinking of.
Golly.
I've got a good Remember Wednesday.
What's up?
Y'all remember when Arkansas and Ole Miss were comparable athletic departments that had similar success in the three major sports? Now it's just not that way. Ole Miss is objectively a better program in all three sports.
That's frustrating.
It is.
They're not a better program in baseball, but like they won a title 3 years ago. Like, they've won that battle. We would trade places with them. Basketball, they have the coach that Arkansas wanted. They are on an upward trajectory. Clearly, we'll find out tonight. But I mean, on a right track. Football, not even close. Don't even get me started there. But you remember when Arkansas used to look down on Ole Miss?
Yeah.
Matter of fact, I remember my old coworker Danny West, great guy. He said Arkansas should never lose to the Mississippi schools or Missouri in any sport, like ever. And at the time he said it, it wasn't a hot take. But now you look at it and you're like, dude, Arkansas would be lucky to compete with Ole Miss or Missouri in anything.
Thanks, Andrew. I appreciate that. That makes me feel so good. Man, it's sad and depressing. But yeah, I will say in inclusion with that, remember when, and this is almost like an anti-Remember Wednesday, but I tweeted this out. I cannot remember in my fandom of Razorback sports and Razorback basketball specifically, going to games, a very memorable Arkansas Ole Miss game. Like there's been so much, there's been some moments.
Are you talking about basketball specifically?
Yeah, just basketball.
Okay.
Yeah, football, yeah, for sure, and baseball for sure. But like, I remember memorable games of Razorbacks and Mississippi State and Vanderbilt. Like just random teams. Other than the only one I can remember personally of note was when Arkansas beat the brakes off Ole Miss and Marshall Henderson in Bud Walton, where Anthlon Bell hit like 10 threes and like just ran them out of the gym. To me, that's the only memorable Arkansas.
Was that on senior night, John?
It was.
I was about to say, because I remember an Arkansas Ole Miss senior night game where like all the seniors balled out. And it was just like a cool, I think that Arkansas team maybe went to the NIT. But it was like just in that moment, I remember being like, this is fun. I remember some Andy Kennedy, Mike Anderson battles,
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
2018 is the one that is memorable to me.
Wait, which one?
It was 2018. It was Arkansas night. They were all dressed like freaking Clifford, and it was a freaking track meet. Arkansas won. I think it was 97-93. But what was that dude's name? Terrence
Henry? No.
Davis. Terrence Davis.
Yeah.
Bucket after bucket after bucket after bucket. And like they just couldn't put him away, but they wound up doing it, making ice at the free throw line. But yeah, both teams damn near scored 100. But I think the reason I remember it was because it was Arkansas, and I was like, I like this.
Did Manny Watkins hit a game winner against Ole Miss? Like a
He
game
did.
winning
Yes.
floater?
He did. That was in Oxford. I'll never forget that because of all the people to hit a game winner. And I love Manny Watkins, but that was the thing that frustrated me about Mike Anderson teams. I'm like, why is the wrong guy taking the shot at end of games? Like, you made it great, but it's like maybe Michael Qualls or Bobby Portis could have been the guy taking the shot, like maybe set up stuff for him. But
they had a great game in the SEC tournament in 2017, I think it was. Arkansas won by 1. That was another game where that Terrence Davis dude was just scoring a crap ton of points, but the main thing that stands out to me about that one was it was under a minute left, and Ole Miss had a chance to take the lead, and Moses Kingsley had a nasty block, a nasty block. And then it was like Ole Miss had, I felt like 3 or 4 shots to tie it on the final possession. They kept getting rebounds and kicking it out. And then they got a layup at the buzzer that made, they still lost by 1, but they had so many opportunities to tie it. Every time the shot goes up, you're like, no. And they never made it. Arkansas moved on, but that was a fun one.
yeah. Well, I was also going to add a moment in an Arkansas Ole Miss game. I don't know if y'all remember this, but this was Mike Anderson's first year. They lost to Ole Miss in this game, but former quarterback Brandon Mitchell got added to the team like 2 weeks prior because Mike, that was when they lost Marshawn Powell for the year. They were needing some depth, and he comes in and he posterized in one of the greatest posterization dunks I've ever seen, an Ole Miss player named Terrence Henry. That's what made it bring up. Arkansas ended up losing, but in the student section, we chanted Terrence has a mangina the entire rest of the game. And he ended up hitting like back-to-back threes to end it. So, yeah,
hey, can either of y'all name the last time Arkansas lost to Ole Miss in Bud Walton Arena?
It might have been that year in 2012.
It was a little bit after that, and it was, weirdly enough, it was a great Arkansas team, an Arkansas team that I believe was a 5 seed in the NCAA tournament. Bobby Portis, Michael Qualls, and them. They lost 96-82 at home to Ole Miss. I don't know what the hell happened in this game, but like Portis had 23, Madden had 22, Qualls had 22, but they gave up 96 to Ole Miss at home. I don't remember anything about this game. I guess it's because they lost, but like a good Arkansas team lost to a random Ole Miss team in one of the best years Arkansas's had in the last 20 years.
That's crazy.
Yeah, that was the year. Because here's the only thing real quick about that game is I remember Arkansas, like in that particular matchup, just like everything else, you can't stop them because they're hitting everything a single shot. Like it was just one of those types of games. 96 points, yeah, that's a ton.
Crazy. When I was in high school, I'm almost positive it was against Ole Miss, and Arkansas went 48 of 53 from the free throw line. It was insane. It was a Ronnie Brewer team because he was at the free throw line. It felt like the entire game. Vincent Hunter, I remember she shot like 15 free throws in the game. But yeah, 48 free throws. And that was the first time I really started considering statistics, because at the end of the game, I was like, wow, home court advantage, man. Arkansas shot 53 free throws, and Ole Miss was under 20 for the game. And I was like, man, and it wasn't that big of a beatdown. So I'm almost positive that was Ole Miss. It would have been like 2004 or 2005 maybe. But yeah, I'd had to go look on Hog Stats, but it was nuts.
I got to look up that game.
Better than when fans cite free throw attempts as like a reason that the ref screwed them.
Yeah.
And I'm like, look, like refs screw things up all the time. And I'm like, free throw attempts. Like, you really think like all those attempts were just because the refs? But
it was 2004.
Man.
Yeah.
Wow.
And apparently that was a record.
Yeah. That's what set the tone in college basketball. Ever since then, free throws have just dominated the game of college basketball since then.
Ronnie Brewer, 10 of 12 from the line. Vincent Hunter, 12 of 14. Kendrick Davis, 9 of 9. Eric Ferguson, 8 of 8. Jonathan Monica, 7 of 8. It's crazy.
I think making the 48 is crazier than attempting 53, honestly. That's unreal.
I'm looking at, I did not remember that one at all, but wow. 53. I thought you were maybe like saying it went to overtime or something.
Oh man,
Dude, Eric, hey, what do you
throws.
think Eric Musselman would think of if he saw that box score?
Oh, you'd have to
nuts.
get a new pair of shorts like after something like that with all the FTAs in that game.
He'd pull a Rick Pitino, you're saying?
Yeah. Well, also surprised. Yeah, let's just relax. But only 2 players fouled out for Ole Miss, which is a little surprising considering how many free throws were had. But sheesh. That other Ole Miss game I was referencing, the one that the one she said Arkansas lost like 96 or whatever. That Bobby Portis, Michael Qualls, and Kai Madden all had 22 points and still lost. So yeah.
You know what's crazy? I had the box score because of hogstats.com. Shout out to him. Ole Miss scored 96 points and was 8 of 15 from 3, which like this was only 10 years ago. Just tells you how different basketball is. Like you just don't score 96 points by only attempting 15 threes, especially if you're making 50%. Like if you make 8 of your first 15, you better shoot 30.
yes.
You know, like nowadays, but it's like nowadays, and Arkansas was 8 of 22, so I guess they were just chucking. But like 22 is probably viewed like a lot of 3-point attempts. Where like now that wouldn't even get you in the top 150 nationally.
Yeah. Well, also I looked and checked because Arkansas has been ranked a good bit. Just shows you Ole Miss has been ranked twice in 30 years when Arkansas and Ole Miss have played a basketball game.
Wow.
Twice. In 08 and 2010, Arkansas won that game when they were 18th. That was on the road in Oxford. And then the other one was in 2019 where they lost in Oxford 84-67. And they were ranked 18th. So, yeah, it's going to be history tonight as Arkansas and Ole Miss. And you got the 23rd ranked Ole Miss Rebels there.
Sorry, that was just God, I hope they win tonight. Sigh. I don't want
I was like, all right, who said something stupid in the chat again?
We just need some happiness, boys.
I know.
People don't really talk about it much. I guess we should do this now. But Arkansas, even with like they lost the most recent game 77-51, but like Arkansas's really owned Ole Miss in basketball for a while now. Like the last decade or so. Like they've only lost a couple. It's kind of rare. I mean, they're 52-34 overall. But like since 2014, they've only lost Ole Miss 3 times.
They never lost to old Kermit, right? When he was there?
Oh, hell no, they didn't lose to Kermit. They would murder those teams.
Yeah.
I remember actually feeling bad for some of those Ole Miss teams, but weirdly enough, there was a stretch from 2010 to 2013 where Ole Miss won 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 straight against Arkansas.
Good times. I remember those days. Good times. Yeah.
People always used to freak out about the Kermit teams because it's like that zone. They're going to be running that zone. It's like it doesn't matter if it's a zone that sucks with players that suck.
Where was he at before Ole Miss? Because he was one of those guys that like won a tournament game and then.
That's right, John. Yeah, Middle Tennessee.
Yeah. Oh, so he was there with Ja'Cory Williams and all those guys.
Yeah.
I got when I was coaching, we would get just like some different seminars and coaching clinics and everything. And our zone offense actually that we put in was the Kermit Davis Middle Tennessee and his team, like demonstrating it all.
I wanted to throw this in as a Remember Wednesday, and I want to give a shout out to War Machine for providing this inspiration. But do you remember when Matt Jones played football and basketball? The former Razorback quarterback, because he posted the clip. People may not know this. Obviously, Matt Jones was incredible. The first time he ever took a snap in college football as a freshman, he threw a touchdown pass. The first time he ever touched a basketball in a Razorback basketball game, he dunked it. And if you go, I wish I could play it, but we'd get demonetized. But if you go back and watch War Machine's video of that, it shows how stupid athletic he was, where he jumped almost too high. Like he had to come down a little bit more because he almost, and there's 2 things from that. 1, do you remember Matt Jones doing that, which was really cool? And 2, do you remember when there would be football and basketball players and they'd play the same sport? Like I get football, baseball.
Jeremiah Bell? Yeah, come on.
Jamario Bell.
Jamario Bell.
Yeah. How could you forget that name? Also,
he was getting some minutes, man.
Yeah, he was.
He was so wide, bro.
Dude.
He was like 6'4", but like 6'4", 310. Like he was just thick.
Yeah, it was like Brandon Mitchell. I brought him up. Matt Jones, Jamario Bell. I'm trying to think of any other Arkansas players that did football and basketball. Jodine Davenport. People may not remember him. Played tight end at Arkansas in the late 90s and all of that. But yeah, that's just so many cool things where you don't see that happen very often, but also when your starting quarterback is playing basketball, just jumping in the middle of the SEC. Just, all right, shows you how freak of an athlete he was and how good he was at basketball. So,
you might have said it, I don't remember, but Marcus Monk.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The only person who ever dunked on me, Marcus Monk.
Really?
High
What
school.
kind of-
Yep. He was at East Poinsett County.
Was it one of those like you got screwed by the refs because it was actually a charge, but they didn't call it, or was it?
No, I challenged it. Yeah,
Okay.
I challenged it, and he didn't like body me and knock me over or whatever. But it was a fast break. He was on one side, I was on the other. I knew it was going to happen, but I tried.
Yeah, he didn't try to take a charge. There's no way Curtis would
he one hand
balls.
flushed it, and it was it was that it was a summer league game we were playing at Harding University.
Wow. There you go.
Oh, throwbacks there.
At that point in time, did y'all like knew that Marcus Monk was going to be like a high level athlete?
I mean, I knew after that play, but he was still young, and I was in high school, but I think we all had a pretty good idea that he was going to be that dude.
Y'all were like, keep an eye on his father.
This was during the time period when my high school for that year there weren't enough people to field a football team. It's like we didn't see it on the gridiron, but he was hooping too. So,
do you think Malik Monk was in attendance for that game? Possibly,
probably, yeah.
There's a chance that Malik Monk watched you get dunked on. That's pretty good.
It's a very strong chance that happened. Yeah, he's good.
Yeah. And what's funny is like Marcus Monk was actually a higher rated basketball player out of high school than he was football. But I think once he got in, like, I think his freshman year, he was SEC all freshman because he was just 6'5". And they just threw the ball up to him with, was it Robert Johnson? I guess that's they just say, I'll stick with football and all of that. But yeah, that's another great athlete that played both sports. But also with the thing with going back to the thing of Matt Jones, I got to tell this quick story because it's a Remember Wednesday, Fayetteville Fly Co. So this is what it's about. It's just like story time is a Remember Wednesday. But Blake Edens, who I love Blake Edens. Blake Edens is my guy, former Razorback. I remember during COVID, when we were just trying to figure out what the crap to talk about on the radio show down there at the Buzz. I had him on, and he told a story about Matt Jones, where that time where he got on the basketball team. And he said that when Matt Jones showed, or they had this open spot, and 3 football players came and tried out. One of them was a tight end named Nathan Ball. One of them was Matt Jones. And the other one was actually Jason Peters, who Hall of Famer and great athlete. He said Jason Peters was the greatest athlete he ever saw because underneath the goal, he's 6'5", like 300 pounds, with standing, jumped up and dunked the basketball under the goal. He said that's how insane he was. But problem was he couldn't handle the conditioning because it was 40 minutes of hell. But and maybe you can help me out with this, Curtis, because I know you were a coach. He said that they were running a drill. It was like 2-on-1, 1-on-2, something like back and forth. Yeah. So he said that they were running that drill, and Matt Jones just walked out there. His shoes were untied, didn't stretch. He's just sitting there by himself. And Nolan says, all right, you're in. And so Matt comes in, tightens the shoes up and goes down the court. And Teddy Gibson, who a lot of people may remember he was a track athlete, just goes down there. Matt Jones posterizes him. Nice. First play, posterizes him, and the place goes nuts. And then Nolan Richardson goes, all right, we're done. He's on the team. Nathan Ball didn't even get a chance in the matter. He goes, he's like, wait, coach. He's like, coach. He's like, wait a minute. Like, you're not going to see you're not going to let me go in there? And he goes, can you do that? He goes, no. He's like, then we're done. We're moving on. So the legend of a Matt Jones athlete and how freakishly great he was, like I said, it was pretty cool. But.
Dude, that is a great story. I love that, man. Yeah. And those drills were always highlights. We would do it, and you just take a player away every trip down the floor. So it'd be like 5-on-4, 4-on-3, 2-on-1, or 3-on-2, 2-on-1. And what it is like, hey, you've got numbers, learn how to finish on a break. And then what it also meant is like, there were a lot of opportunities because of the numbers for guys to get freaking dunked on. And so that would happen a lot in our practice. I could only imagine that. But yeah, Matt Jones, it reminds me of the Bay Fall story when he first got to campus. And because he was like a month late or whatever getting to campus, and they were getting all their mile times and everything. And I remember texting one of the coaches and being like, hey, how's Bay? Like, is he in shape? How's he look? And he's like, well, Muss has his mile times. Bay went out there, didn't stretch, shoes untied, sub 5 minute mile. I was like, okay. And then, nothing ever happened, but
condition though. There's
Yeah.
no condition.
So,
Yeah.
Matt Jones is like, he honestly just is like an athlete from today's era that was just dropped into, like, he's kind of the answer. Like, you see like guys like DK Metcalf, these like 6'4", 230 guys that are running 4.3s, and you're just like, imagine those guys back in the day. Like, Matt Jones kind of is the answer to that question of like, what if we took one of these freaks that are in society? Because nowadays in sports, like, not saying there's a bunch of Matt Joneses, but like we see more and more of these guys that are doing like measurables that just don't make sense. I mean, Matt Jones really was ahead of his time. He honestly it's kind of a shame that Arkansas got a decent amount out of him, but it's like you look at some of the offenses of today in football and you're like, holy cow, imagine what they would have done with freaking Matt Jones. Like some of the guys who are just not nearly as good of athletes, but are big, strong guys that people are trying to build offenses around in college football and doing it well. It's like, dude, you could do a lot with a guy like that.
Yeah.
I mean, Terrell Pryor, not as good of an athlete as Matt Jones. Matt Jones would have been better than, you know what I mean? Like it would have been crazy.
Well, and I know it's not the only thing, but like 40 times, obviously, are good indicators. At the NFL Combine, there is still like, because Matt Jones did not go as a quarterback; he was a wide receiver, so it's, you're not going to look it up. But guys, there's only been one guy who played quarterback in college that ran a faster 40 time in NFL Combine history than Matt Jones. One, and it happens to be a guy named Michael Vick. Michael Vick ran a 4.33. Matt Jones ran a 4.37.
Whew.
And here's the thing. I love Michael Vick. Michael Vick's also 6 feet tall. Matt Jones was 6'5", 235 pounds. And so that's where it's like the athleticism that he had. I just don't think we'll ever see anything like it again. And like you said, Andrew, in the era that he was in, like nobody, defensive linemen and all that, they never seen anything like that. And that's why he always was able to escape so easily. It's like they're just sitting there like, oh, I got him. Oh, no. And he just takes 2 steps and he's got 10 yards. So, yeah.
Hey, since we're talking Arkansas Ole Miss, Matt Jones did dunk a football over the goalpost against Ole Miss, and he got flagged for it. As you can't do that in college football. One of my favorite clips of all time as a kid, like I used to watch that over and over again, and I was always prepared. I was like, when I play in the NFL as a kid, me, Andrew Ellis, I'm gonna just be prepared. I'm gonna take the 15-yard penalty, but I'm dunking because Matt Jones did it.
Yeah. Also, so like this from Andrew. He goes, the draft had him at 6'6" and a quarter and 242 pounds. Okay, my bad. Even taller and bigger than what he was. So
that's a hoss right there.
Yeah, dude, it was a big old boy now.
There's a big load coming at you now.
It's a load now.